All right, hello, welcome. In this video, we are going to be talking about perpendicular lines. Now, perpendicular lines are two lines that intersect to form right angles. All right, so let's just draw a couple of lines here. I'll label this one here L. I'll label this one here M. And if we say that L is perpendicular to M, then it's going to make four right angles. This here's a right angle, this is a right angle, this is a right angle, and this is a right angle. The way that we denote two lines being perpendicular to one another is we would write L, and then we draw like this little symbol that looks like two parallel lines. And that means is perpendicular to. So right here we wrote L is perpendicular to M. Line L is perpendicular to line M. So now let's just take a look. We have a couple of theorems that go along with perpendicular lines, but they're pretty straightforward here. So the first theorem that we have is if two lines are perpendicular, right, and that's the symbol for perpendicular again, just if you want to see it, then they form congruent adjacent angles. Well, that makes total sense, right? If we draw two lines that are perpendicular to one another, we know that they make four right angles or 90-degree angles. Well, this here's a right angle, this here's a right angle. If they're both 90 degrees, that means their measures are equal. That means that the angles are congruent. And so the adjacent angles are going to be congruent. So if two lines are perpendicular, they form congruent adjacent angles. The converse of that is also true. So say that we know, well, let's first write what the converse is. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself here. All right, the converse would be if two lines form congruent adjacent angles, then they are perpendicular. If two lines form congruent adjacent angles, then they are perpendicular. All right, and let's see, why does that make sense? Well, let's say right here I have this line and this line, and I know that this angle here is congruent to this angle here. Well, they have to add up to 180 because they form a straight line. And if they're congruent, then, well, half of 80, that means each of them has to be 90. If each of them are 90, that means these are right angles. If those are right angles, then the lines have to be perpendicular. So that's kind of how we can think through, oh, okay, the converse makes sense. All right, and our last theorem. So in this case, we are saying that ray OA is perpendicular to ray OC. So this angle right here, angle AOC is going to be a right angle. And that tells us that angles 1 and 2 are going to be complementary. And that makes sense, right? Angle addition tells us that they have to add up to equal the measure of angle AOC. And the measure of angle AOC is 90 degrees. So angles 1 and angle 2 are complementary. Angle 1 and angle 2 are complementary. And that's it. That's all we have for perpendicular lines. So I hope this helps you guys out. Best of luck on your homework.